When's the last time you walked out of a meeting at work and thought to yourself, wow, that was an honest exchange of challenging ideas. People really brought their own views, pushed back on each other, and it felt safe. Sadly, most of the meetings where we gather with our colleagues to make important decisions and solve problems don't quite leave us feeling that way. Most leaders mean well. They want people to feel included in decisions and to make their rationale behind those decisions clear. But even with good intentions, they fall short. The systems of how we allocate resources, like budgeting, and all of the processes and meetings we hold to execute our goals are called governance systems. And as you likely already know, within our organizations don't always sync up well to make sure information and authority end up in the hands of the people most qualified to make key decisions. So we walk out of those important meetings confused about whether a decision was even made, or who made it, and what to do next. My research found that when governance systems are transparent, when people feel engaged in the decisions they have to carry out, you are 3.5 times more likely to have people tell the truth and act fairly. And when the opposite is true and transparency doesn't exist, the consequences can be catastrophic. What would you do if you found out that your company was poisoning people? Let me take you back to a time in the mid-'80s to 2 companies who discovered just that. DuPont, who made Teflon, the coating for non-stick cooking surfaces, found out for sure what they suspected for decades, that one of the chemicals used in manufacturing Teflon, C8, could indeed cause severe health issues, including many forms of cancer. They'd been pouring out wastewater full of C8 into the Ohio River for years. They intentionally withheld that information. Pregnant women in their company gave birth to deformed babies. Through 20 years of investigation and lawsuits, the attorney Rob Bilott, who I interviewed, and whose story is featured in the major motion picture Dark Waters, worked tirelessly to prove DuPont's negligence and cover-up, winning nearly $700 million for thousands of people whose lives and families were destroyed. The cost to DuPont's reputation likely reached into the billions. By contrast, another company during the same time frame, Patagonia, learned that the way cotton was milled in the manufacturing of their clothing used the chemical formaldehyde, a highly toxic chemical that was poisoning their own employees in one of their retail stores. Rather than dismissing it as an isolated issue, they commissioned a comprehensive study to understand all of the fibers used to make their clothes. What they discovered about cotton was horrific. From the pesticides to the finishing, the way cotton was grown and harvested left a massive toxic footprint behind it. When the study concluded, they made the difficult, expensive, but right decision to switch all of their cotton to organically grown cotton within an 18-month period. The implications of this decision for Patagonia were hardly trivial. I spoke to Vincent Stanley, one of the earliest founding members with Yvon Chouinard of Patagonia. Today, he's the director of Patagonia philosophy for the company. He told me the switch to organic cotton was one of the most formative and difficult inflection points for Patagonia. He said, "It's one thing to say we're using all these horrible chemicals and it's not necessary. But when you take people out to the fields where cotton is grown, and even when the windows on the bus are closed, the smell of formaldehyde is coming in the windows, that's something else. When you experience something that enlarges your sense of the world, changes your worldview, it enables you to change your mind." Today, Patagonia is one of the world's most admired companies. Taking transparency to an entirely new level, they've built a website called the Footprint Chronicles, on which you can see every one of their manufacturing plants, what's made there, who's making it, and what its environmental footprint is. They not only declare transparency in their decision-making as important, they are living it. So, how do you decide what information to share, what to withhold, who to include in decisions? How do you make sure people understand how you arrive at the choices you do? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down the last 2 or 3 significant decisions you made over the last couple of weeks. For each decision, I want you to ask these questions. 1, who did I include and why? 2, who did I exclude and why? 3, what information did I share and why? And 4, what information did I withhold and why? 5, did I intentionally invite people to challenge my thinking? And 6, how did people respond to the decision once it was made? Use this analysis to see if you can spot any patterns in who you include in your decisions and in what information you share. Do you do it privately or with your team meetings? With whom, where, and how you construct your decisions has enormous impact on the honesty and fairness of your people. Be sure your intentions and your actions are aligned. I'll be hosting a live webinar next week to have an honest conversation about what it means to make decisions in an open, transparent way. You can click on the link below where you're watching this video to register. During that time, I'll be sharing some other ways you can make sure the meetings you hold with your team are safe to invite disagreement and out-of-the-box ideas. I'll explore a continuum of all the ways you can make different decisions with your team. So, do this work and bring your answers to the webinar, and let's have a spirited conversation about how making decisions transparent is one important part of learning how to be honest.